Hi and welcome to the MCA Prodcast, your fix for everything innovative in advertising production. I'm Pat Murphy and I've been working in this industry for more than 35 years now. I've seen a lot of changes, but know there's plenty more around the corner. Each week on the Prodcast, you'll get to hear from one of the movers and shakers who are shaping the world of advertising production for the future. And we'll dive into some of the key challenges facing our sector today and how we're best placed to overcome them. Today, you're going to meet Úrsula Mejía Melgar, Marketing Director Southern Europe for Diageo, a food engineer by training but a marketer by trade and heart. Úrsula's gained experience for over 20 years across categories, markets and Fortune 250 companies, including my old advertising school, P&G. General Mills and Mondelez on there as well. Traditionally, she's trained with a full skill set of marketing and general management, well-traveled, having held positions in LATAM, USA and Europe. Delivering step-changing solutions and business growth for several global billion-dollar brands. Úrsula is a woman on a mission and is passionate for new possibilities, purpose-led marketing, and challenging the status quo. Úrsula, welcome to our humble Prodcast.
Oh, hi, Pat. Lovely to be here with you.
Thank you very much. I have to start by congratulating you on the J&B Christmas ad, which you developed in Spain last year. A powerful decision to champion, I think, a real purpose. If people haven't seen it, it's a story that sees an old man borrowing his wife's makeup to explore his expressions of gender. He tries several times to get the perfect look and even uses a bus stop poster to compare the details of the eyeshadow he wears. When his family come over for Christmas dinner, the old man recognizes that his grandchild, Alvaro, needs some support. The old man then takes Alvaro into another room to help his grandchild with his makeup and put his practice to the test. When the pair eventually remerge, the family are taken aback by the majesty of Alvaro's appearance, who is then welcomed by the family as Anna. When I first saw that ad, it gave me a bit of a tingle, but actually it's beautifully produced, beautifully directed by Gabe, as we know. But the one thing that went through my mind, Úrsula, was how on earth did you get that approved inside at Diageo? What were the challenges for you?
Well, obviously, it's a very brave ad. We put it out at the time. There was also a lot of controversial conversations in Spain because the transgender law was being discussed in Congress. And we didn't plan it like that, but it happened to be like that. So it was highly controversial and we made a public issue very visible. So the beauty of this ad, Pat, is that the journey started with the repositioning of J&B. J&B is a brand that has existed in Spain for many years, over 50 years, to the point that many Spaniards believe it's a Spanish whiskey, even though it's obviously a Scottish whiskey. And it's a brand that is highly democratized in the sense that everybody knows how to pronounce J&B in Spanish, JB. It's very well distributed. It's very accessible by price. It's highly recognizable. And historically, it's been a whiskey that has stand for celebration, for the night, a very well-known brand, millions of cases sold over years. But it's true that in the past few years, the brand eroded, and mainly because celebrations do not mean the same that they meant in the 80s or in the 90s or in the 2000s. 20 years ago, the way consumers celebrated, that we all celebrated, has changed dramatically. And the repositioning for us started with a journey of ensuring that we break down the barriers for celebration. And those in most of the time mean that you sometimes don't feel welcome to be part of the celebration, either because of your gender or your racial ethnicity or your own circumstances. And we wanted to break down or to start or contribute to society by helping break down the barriers that many people see and feel when it comes to celebration. So there are many cohorts or subgroups that are discriminated when it comes to celebrate, whether it's at a nightclub or even within families. So it can be as extreme as the family environment all the way up to the social life that any city can offer. So we wanted to be very evident about it. Our journey for She really started in the summer with a different initiative that was called Orgullo de Pueblo, or Small Village Pride. And that started because 13% of the population from the LGBTIQ plus cohort in Spain live in rural areas. All the rest moved to the big cities with the intention of anonymity, of acceptance, of kind of being able to portray who they really are, and they live their lives as they really are, whether gays, lesbians, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersexual. So we wanted to bring pride to where it's most needed, which is in the small villages in Spain. And that's how our journey started. And I think that was the first step to be accepted internally at Diageo as a brand that was going to be repositioned like that. So we took the Pride celebration that in Madrid, as you know, it's one of the biggest around the world, and we took it with a float to small villages. And that was very well received because we asked the villages to raise their hand if they wanted for us to come. And we got over 1,000 requests in the span of only 3 weeks of villages that wanted us to come to their towns and celebrate with them. And that was the indicator for us that there was a very powerful message that we could deliver, which is celebration is for everyone. So we partnered with a lot of very important people, with a director in Spain who is Eduardo Casanova, an actor and a director, to help us with the ad for that. We didn't do a cast of actors. We decided to partner with real people that we wanted to portray their stories, whether from a transgender standpoint or from a gay or lesbian standpoint, people that have been advocates for the community. And those were the ones that we portrayed. So that was the first step of the journey, Pat. And then when it came for us to deliver a Christmas ad, we knew we wanted to be the response for that. So what is the people in the villages feeling? How were they receiving this message? And what's the change that we wanted to see in the world? So obviously, a Spanish grandfather, which has been kind of like a male-dominated society for many, many years, a little bit patriarchal, if you will. We still have a monarchy here in Spain. It's the image of the tradition. And to soften a grandfather, to accept his transgender granddaughter for who she is, was the best message we could put out. A message of acceptance, a message of love. And because the starting point is reality, I think it's been very well accepted at Diageo. Also because at Diageo, we believe in equality and equity for everyone. So that's the starting point, and this is how it came to be.
And when you finished the ad and it broke, obviously it went viral, but in Spain specifically, what was the reaction to the ad?
It was crazy. We never expected it to gain so much momentum. So we put it out on the afternoon of December the 3rd. To begin with, Pat, when we saw the piece internally, the first edit, you know how productions are.
Sure.
I cannot even tell you about it. So, you get that first edit from the agency, you have something powerful, but when you see it with the lighting, which is just gorgeous in that ad, the choices on the editing that Gabe and the agency brought to us were truly outstanding. And everybody was crying in the room because the message was so powerful. And even though we knew what was coming in the ad, we knew it was powerful. So we put it out on YouTube. We wanted to see the organic reaction because before we actually went out on media, on paid media. So we wanted to give the ad a good 5 days of organic visibility to see how it transpired. We wanted to feel how people reacted to it. And we put it out on Twitter and with a YouTube foundation, and it went crazy. Within 24 hours, we got 1 million retweets and visibilities. And what was more interesting is that very famous personalities started to talk about it on the right side of the politics in Spain, on the left side of the politics in Spain, and they were both very positive. The extreme right and the extreme left were reacting positively. We got massive celebrities posting things like, I would love to work for you guys. It was fantastic to see people. And of course, by December 3rd, a lot of people are in a Christmas mood. So that was very, very powerful.
And how has it impacted your sales on the brand?
Yeah, we're in a long-term journey. Of course, we're seeing the benefit of the ad. J&B is a brand that is going through a full revamp when it comes to pricing, to promo. So an ad alone cannot move the trajectory that we have seen for the past 10 years. So it's taken us a little bit of a while to really translate this into the momentum that we want to see. But for us, what was the most important thing was to just make the statement, make sure that people understand as a brand who we are. And, it's funny because we started the journey by saying we want to be the most inclusive whiskey brand in the world. And in one presentation, I stood up and I scratched the world whiskey and I said, we want to be the most inclusive brand in the world, period. And that changed the statement for everyone. That changed the mindset, because this is just the beginning for us. And I'm certain we are in the journey for the most positive trajectory for the brand, and we'll keep on working behind it.
And in your opinion then, why is it so important that brands connect on a deeper level than just product benefits?
Absolutely. I mean, brands not only have the power, but have the responsibility to change the world. There's a number or a statistic that I love to use, which is the amount of money spent behind media and advertising production and media is twice the size of the money invested behind TV and movies production. That is because, of course, in advertising, we need to put a lot of money behind the media to ensure the visibility. But that speaks by itself. We are making pieces that people get to see. And that means that the messages we convey are super important, not only as a reflection of society, but also in depicting the society we want to see, in depicting the society we believe people should see. So that in itself is for us the starting point, the fact that brands can change the world, advertising can change the world. And I believe that everyone involved in advertising development, production, and media, from wherever we're standing, we have the chance to change the world. In this particular case, when it comes to the LGBTIQ plus community, from the agency that has the creativity to the agencies we partner with to gather the insights, to get the right people, to get the right talent, all the way to the production and the people we partner with to drive that production, to the message we convey, to the media that we buy, because we can also support small businesses with the media that we buy. It's an end-to-end chain of benefit and of support and visibility and voice. And I think that's our responsibility as advertisers, that we create and promote an industry that not only portrays the message in the final piece, but that carries on that message to everything that we do and everyone that we touch with our project.
When we were talking last time, I think we mentioned the fact that we didn't think that governments were ever going to solve these issues. So it is a responsibility for big business like ourselves. And I was reading Paul Polman's book. I don't know if you've read that. It's called Net Positive. When he was at Unilever, he took a very strong position on purpose-led advertising before he left. And he came under a little bit of fire as well. People thought that it wasn't always relevant for all the brands. What are some of the challenges for marketers when considering D&I, sustainability in advertising strategies?
Well, I think many brands try to do advertising as something they do, not something they are. So to me, the foundational change needs to happen at the core purpose of the brand. And it needs to start with the belief from the company that that's part of the initiatives and what the company really wants to do. So in the case of Diageo, I'm very proud to say that our ESG agenda is completely intertwined with our business agenda, and they are only one. So we have 6 must-dos as part of our performance as a public company. The first 3 are completely related to the traditional financial must-dos that any company will have in terms of financial growth, profitability, etc. But the next 3, which would be must-dos 4, 5, and 6 for us, are completely related to our ESG agenda, which derives from the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. So it's very much in line with the direction that the world and many countries are trying to take. It's true that as corporations, we have that responsibility because we carry on many messages. We deliver products that oftentimes have very high penetrations, and we work across markets. In many cases, large corporations like ours operate and sell products in more than 150 countries. So we have a responsibility. We have many employees, which are the starting point. And our must-dos from an ESG standpoint at Diageo are first and foremost to promote positive drinking. Moderation is at the core of what we do, and obviously not about drinking more, but drinking better. That's very important for us. The second one is about the social impact we can have through the entire line. It's inclusion and diversity. And inclusion means better societies. It means fostering a climate in which everyone can thrive, every stakeholder that we partner with, from suppliers, whether it's small farmers that produce the grains that we use, all the way down to the companies that we use to advertise our products. end-to-end in the value chain. And the third is about environmental sustainability. And to me, these messages, it's not something that the brands should say, but it's something that the brands should be. So it's about being at the core. It's about that purpose-led advertising, but from embedding that in the brand. And I guess Unilever is a very good example, because you and I talked about Dove as the example of that they've had with Real Beauty for being a purpose-led brand, changing how society behaves towards female appearance and female body perception. And I think what they've done has been a journey of commitment that has worked very well for them. And we hope what we can put out from, not only from a J&B standpoint, but from all the brands that Diageo has, like Johnny Walker, like Baileys, like Tanqueray, we can obviously build purpose-led communications that are as entertaining, because I think advertising has a role of being entertaining, as relevant for everyone.
I read with a very great interest in the article you did with Forbes magazine that the biggest challenge you see for a marketing company like Diageo is in leading your brands from a sustainability point of view. We've just touched on sustainability. How do you see that translating then into both the advertising message, but also how you approach the advertising and production content?
Well, that's a very good point. I think, when you talk about environmental sustainability, we have different scopes, scope 1, 2, and 3. And these scopes is what's related, what you can control, right? So scope 3 oftentimes is related to the things that you don't have in your control, but you can partner with vendors and providers that are equipping you with a reduction of the carbon footprint, who are much more conscious about how you drive your practices, whichever those are. They could be about production. They can be about producing in a much more sustainable manner, whether it's from the location that you choose, the number of days you use the equipment, the amount of people you need. You can think about every single aspect in the value chain of a production of an ad to be conscious about what's going to have the least impact, but also the greatest benefit, because sometimes sustainability is also about ensuring that communities can thrive, and that is about who you can bring to the table to produce the ad, to ensure that smaller businesses also are viable in our industry.
Do you think that the right kind of questions get asked in the pre-production stages about those kinds of things? Because there's a whole range of technologies now that can help reduce the carbon footprint. Do you think the agency thinks about those things? What do you think the industry needs to do?
No. The bad and simple question is no. The right questions are not being asked. If I had one asked to your audience and to every person responsible for this, is let's bring those conversations to the table. And it's not only environmental sustainability, it's sustainability across the board. It's about who are we working with and what are we doing it. To be honest with you, I think in advertising and in marketing, in corporations, we are always, time is our biggest enemy, right? So maybe the biggest advice I would give everyone is, when you allow yourself the time to ask yourself those questions, you will have much greater ability to answer them in the right way and proceed in a much more conscious way. So you need to ask the questions, but you need to act with sufficient time so the questions can be asked and you can make the informed decision.
Going back to the J&B ad that you made before Christmas, I understand that you delivered it also on a rather tight budget, which goes to show that great storytelling doesn't need to cost a lot of money. Also, we're seeing new production techniques like virtual production, which we talked about last time, emerging now, which is facilitating the pressure to do more for less whilst delivering great creative. What pressures are you seeing from your side, and how can the advertising community help?
There are many factors that drive the commitment from everyone to deliver with new techniques at better cost. I think it all starts with the relationship you can have with your agency. To me, the relationship with client agency should be one of seamless integration, solid challenges from both ends, and a joint agenda in terms of not only the output, but also the how it's going to be created, that output. And those conversations need to happen not only through a pre-production meeting. I think it needs to be fluid. I think it needs to be open. I think the agency needs to be part of understanding your end-to-end strategy as a company, as a brand, well beyond, here's the brief, here's the response, here's the PPM, here's the shooting, here's an ad. It's the subtleties that happen behind and within all those meetings and all those steps what are going to make the difference. And I think that's why spending time with the agency, sitting together at the table, breaking bread, as we will say, in an informal way, sharing your concerns as a client, sharing your ambitions, sharing your dreams. I like to talk about dreams because we as humans, I think we have passions and we have intentions, and then the magic happens. But you need to show up with a vulnerability. You need to show up with an intention, and you need to be willing to co-create, to learn, because there's a lot of learning to happen in this space, and to hear the experts. And for example, you're an expert in this space. So I think we need to bring more of these experts like you to the process to help us learn, to help us understand what's available, and to hold our hands and take us into the next era of advertising production.
Well, I hope I get the chance to do that with you. Let me dig a little bit deeper into your background, if that's okay. Let me get a bit personal with you. When we last talked, you said you were a very proud Mexican immigrant into the United States. Has this helped you form your views on fairness, do you think, in the industry?
Absolutely. I think there are maybe 3 pivotal moments in my life, Pat, that have, and I didn't connect the dots until very recently, because to me, it's just part of who I am. It's my fiber. So it's like, this is who I am. But then when you realize what you've been exposed to, you understand how the world operates, how discrimination can happen, how we can address it. So I'll give you 3 very simple examples. The first one is, it's in my family. My grandmother had 4 children, one of them my mom, obviously. That was the last. But my aunt, right before my mom was born, who was 3 years older, was born with a disability. Her legs were not fully formed, and she had a tumor that was growing inside of her. It was a benign tumor, but it grew like ivy, so it was not removable. And my grandmother knew that her daughter's days were capped in a way. What made it a little bit more dramatic is that my grandfather was a doctor, and in spite of him being a very well-recognized doctor in the Mexican society at the time, there was nothing he could do for his daughter. So my aunt went through surgery in the first instances in her life. And then when she came to be 5 years old, and there was no school, that at the time, we're talking in the 50s in Mexico, this was a time in which people with disabilities were hidden. They were relegated from the family. In many cases, they were placed in institutions, or they were fully separated from the family life. There were no schools that will take in a child in a wheelchair. So my grandma, and this is a pivotal moment, I think, in the narrative of my family and the narrative of who I am as a person. My grandma decided to buy the house next door and open up a school so her daughter could go to school. And I think that was a pivotal moment of faith and truth, and owning your truth and offering the best that you can do, obviously, for your child. But that was a big statement. So my aunt was able to go to school because my grandmother opened La Escuelita Azul, the little blue school, next door to her house for my aunt, and obviously for other children, and many children joined. And when my aunt was ready to go to school at a later moment, she joined the school when she was about 11 years old, but she had a foundation of education that allowed her to be integrated into society. So that when she managed to get to university, she founded for one of the largest universities in the world, which is La UNAM, Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México. She was the founding member and president of the Disability Association, or Association of Disabled People for the university, and promoting inclusion and diversity from her own standpoint. So when you see that story of how supporting one person becomes really a starting point to support a full community, it's just gorgeous. So that would be the first. The second is, I moved to the United States at the time of the September 11 attacks. What that meant was that it was very hard for me to get a working visa. So I found myself not working, and I decided to be a volunteer teacher of English for Mexican immigrants, mainly illegal immigrants that were in the States, and they didn't speak any English. So I was a teacher for them. I hope I did well. And the stories that I heard about from those immigrants having to cross the border, what they exposed themselves to, and then how they progress when you lend a hand and you teach them English. One of them told me that he was a dishwasher at a restaurant. And the moment he graduated from the English classes, he was able to become a waiter. And that's progress. And that for his family meant a lot because he was making more money. That allowed him to become legal because that job was supporting documentation, proper documentation. So you see these stories and they're amazing. So when I was able to join General Mills, I started off in traditional marketing, doing work for the brands there. But then I had a massive opportunity, and again, another pivotal moment, one of those that you jump at and you are forever grateful. So the CMO of General Mills, who was Mark Addix at the time, one of the best marketeers I've seen in my entire career, Mark Addix gave me the opportunity to start a multicultural marketing unit within General Mills. And we started off by offering people information that General Mills had, because it's a very purpose-driven company. So there was information about breast cancer with Yoplait, or there was information about cholesterol with Cheerios. And we made that information available for Hispanic consumers in the United States. And that translated into significant business, because when you lend a hand, I always felt like I was like a dual ambassador, bringing the messages from corporate America to Hispanic consumers with the intention of supporting them, providing access to information about schooling, about health and wellness. And when you make that information available, you get in return the business. And so we had a platform called Que Rica Vida. It was a beautiful platform that started off as a little pamphlet and evolved into a full 360 with segments on TV and Univision, with a magazine that was distributed for free, very much at large, 1 million copies at a time, with coupons. But more than anything, what was fully fulfilling was the letters that I got from consumers. Letters saying, for example, from a 54-year-old woman I will never forget, telling me how she had diabetes, and the doctor always told her to do exercise, and that she thought that doing exercise was only about going to the gym, and she was not educated that way. I mean, you can imagine a traditional Hispanic woman raised in a small village in Mexico. Going to the gym was completely out of her repertoire. But when she learned it was about taking walks, eating mindfully, she was writing me because her health was changing, her health was improving. And like that, I have many examples, many examples. So these stories changed you. These stories, at least they have impacted me massively to understand that the positions that we hold in corporations can truly make an impact. So absolutely, my own personal journey of being an immigrant myself, a woman in business, a woman at this point in a traditionally male-dominated business, and working for a company that supports and empowers not only women, but purpose-led operations. It's just fantastic. And it's an amazing platform for me to convey the message, to support others, and hopefully to deliver an invitation to all other corporations to do the same.
And then there's, of course, Christina, your CMO at Diageo, who's just been named WFA Global Marketer of the Year 2022. I'm guessing your values are pretty similar, yeah?
Absolutely. I have to say, Christina is another one of the best marketers I've met in my career. But beyond that, I can say that Christina is just a beautiful human being. She's the type of person that will listen carefully, will empower people to be at their best, will understand where the company needs to be, not in a sassy way or in a like with flair, but in a very consistent, business-orientated, society-integrated way. And I think she's at the core of what we're doing, at the core of the permission, and I put that in quotation, for us to do this type of advertisements like she for J&B, because she empowers me and the team like she does all the other Diageo marketing units around the world. Not only recognizes it, but celebrates it. But what it's even better is that the support goes beyond that. And now she has been featured in over 75 countries across the world, in newspapers, on TV. And so it's resonating with a lot of people. And that speaks highly of how the empowerment that a person like Christina does for her teams around the world can create a wave of impact worldwide.
So you're creating an environment actually at Diageo that is actually really exciting and people want to work for. With so much changing in the world, what is the one bit of advice you would give to a young Ursula coming into the world of marketing today, wherever they are from the world, whatever kind of part of society? What's your key piece of advice?
I would say trust your gut and align yourself with your own purpose. It doesn't need to be the same for everyone, but I don't think everyone needs to be behind the same initiatives that we are doing here at Diageo, or that all brands need to do the same. But I think every person is born with a purpose, and that purpose is felt in your gut. I was telling my children, I have a 17-year-old daughter, Sofia, and a 14-year-old son, Emilio. And I was telling them the other day, I'm a chemical engineer, but I've never worked as such. When I finished my career, I wanted to be in the science communication. In Spanish it's called divulgación científica. It's the communication of the sciences. And I knew deep down that what I wanted to do was communication. I was grasping science as the message. But the reality, what I wanted to do is make information accessible to the world. And I only discovered that after university. I mean, I think if I were to go back, maybe I would have studied something different, more towards the humanities side. But anyway, you do the best with what you have. You align with your purpose. And to me, that intent and that the incipient leaders in all young people, business leaders, I mean, when you listen to your core and you say that from who you are, that is very impactful. I had a manager at a time, maybe 8 years ago, who at a year-end review told me, she said it like this: your happiness overwhelms me, and I don't know if you are professional enough because you're always happy. And she put me on a performance improvement plan.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
I still, to this day, I cannot believe that. But that was because my optimism was not conveying professionalism. And once I got over that little period of my life that was frustrating and sad and anxiety was through the roof, I realized I'm going to be who I am. If it's a good fit for the company, it's fantastic. And if not, I'm going to go and do what I need to do. But that was a pivotal moment. So the message to a young Úrsula and the message to anyone out there who is looking to have a meaningful and a fulfilling career is think about your career as part of your life. Don't separate it. Start from your core, be who you are, follow your passions, and the magic will come, I promise.
I'm totally 100% right there with you. Actually, I'm still doing the job today and can't believe I get paid to do this because it's the stuff that I've always loved doing. And someone might find me out one day, but I totally right there with you. So before we go, Úrsula, well, one question we always ask our guests is, what is their favorite ad of all time? What's yours?
Well, my favorite ad of all time, it's an ad for Loteria in Spain. Loteria is the annual sweepstakes that takes place, the lotto, where people can win a lot of money, the jackpot. And this is an ad that I think it's from about 2015, but it depicts a man that forgets to buy Loteria. And the tradition in Spain, and this is something that I have only seen in this country. Remember, I'm Mexican, so I'm not from this country. But I think it just shows so well how society behaves in Spain. Is Loteria, the same number, you know how you have like the series and then you can have the smaller pieces from that series, are bought amongst families or friends, because the notion is that if one wins, we all win. So when you see that ad, you will understand why this is so powerful, because this is about a man who forgets to buy his Loteria piece and his community wins. And he's fully devastated because he didn't get his little lotto piece. So while all of his friends are becoming rich, he is not. And what happens, I'm not going to tell you, so you have to see the ad.
I'm going to have to watch it.
It's just beautiful. And the reason why I like it, and it's very human, it conveys a powerful message, but it depicts society at its best. And that's why I love it.
I'm sure everyone is looking forward to seeing that. It'll be on our website. So, Úrsula, I think we both share exactly the same values. I could talk to you all day long. I want to say a huge thank you to you for being on our podcast today.
Pat, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
I want to say a big thank you to the amazing Úrsula Mejía Melgar for taking time to talk to me today. It's been a real insight into her world of purpose-led marketing, specifically Diageo, bringing fairness, equality and sustainability into what we do and how that ladders also into production. To find out more about the MCA Prodcast, please head to theprodcast.com where you'll find details on all my guests, links to their favorite ads, and full transcriptions of all the episodes. If you'd like to feature on the podcast or have any comments, questions, or feedback, please email us at podcast@murphycobb.com. I'm Pat Murphy, CEO of MCA. Do come and connect with us on LinkedIn or Instagram, of which all the links in the notes for this episode will be there. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again to Úrsula, my team at MCA, and to my production team at What Goes On Media. Thanks for listening. See you next time.